We are all carrying a load. Me, you, whoever you are, I don't even know who I'm talking to. But if I'm talking to a human being who lives on planet Earth, you're carrying a load. That load sometimes may seem so heavy that it's beyond your capability of bearing. It feels like you just want to crash down because that load is so heavy. But I'm here to tell you today that the load isn't what's breaking you. The way you're carrying the load is what's breaking you. And that's a big life-changing understanding. A lot of times we look at that load. It could be a bad job. It could be a sickness. It could be a problem at home. It could be a problem in any other sphere of your life. And sometimes we look at that load and we say, we can't carry this load. This load is too heavy for me. I'm not going to make it. But we have to ask ourselves, is it the load that's really breaking us? Or is it the way that we're carrying the load? And I want to give you just a few examples. You could have a bad job, right? A lot of people hate their job. A lot of people go into work and it's torture to them. And I feel bad for those people. And you can go through your workday in complete misery if you don't like what you have to do, the tasks that you're given, if you don't like the people who are around you, and you're spending a huge chunk of your life at a place that you're not happy in. So sometimes you could break down because this load is just too heavy. But I want to ask you a question. Why don't you quit? Would you be happy if you got fired? And I'm assuming that the reason you're not quitting your job, even as bad as it may seem, is because your job is fulfilling a very important purpose in your life. It's providing you with money to be able to pay your rent, to feed your family. It's providing you with something very valuable. Would you be happy if you got fired tomorrow? Probably not, right? Because if you would have just left. Doesn't that tell you that your job, as bad as it is serving a very vital role in your life? It's providing something to you that's really, really important. So now take a step back and ask yourself, the job is my load. But is that load really what's breaking me down? Or is it my perspective, the way I'm looking at the load, the way I'm carrying the load, my negativity towards the load? That's really what's breaking me. See, two people can wake up and one person can wake up and say, oh my gosh, I have this horrible job to go to. I can't take it anymore. I hate the people there. I hate what I have to do. I'm wasting my life. That's one way to carry the load. Guess what? If you carry your load that way, doom and gloom, negativity, only seeing the glass that's half empty, the way you're carrying that load is going to break you. What happens if you carry it a different way? What happens if you wake up in the morning and say, thank God I have a job to go to. Thank God I have a way to pay my bills. Thank God I have the ability to pay for food and feed my children. Thank God I can have a roof over my head and pay for it. Yeah, the job still sucks, but the way you're carrying it is different. One person is depressed going to work because all they're thinking about is how bad their job is and what they have to do there and how it's the worst thing in the world. And the other person is at least happy that they have a job to go to. They're able to look at their silver lining. They're able to look that at least there's something in that glass. Maybe it's not your favorite drink. Maybe there's not a lot of it, but there's something there. And when you're thirsty, guess what? Almost any drink will do to keep you hydrated. So this is an example of how you carry the load. Let me give you another example. A person could have some type of illness, aches, pains, something, whatever it is. They could focus in and zero in on that problem and see nothing else. And the way they carry the load is really worse than the illness itself. Think about it. I remember there's a book that I love. It's called God Never Blinks from Regina Brett. And she was diagnosed with breast cancer and she had to go through chemotherapy. And she says there that her life turned upside down and it was misery. The food she ate tasted like metal. She lost her hair. She was nauseous all day long. I can't even begin to tell you what someone who goes through chemotherapy and cancer has to struggle with. I can't even try to say it. She said something in her book that stuck with me for many years. She says there that her attitude towards the chemotherapy was worse than the chemotherapy itself. It's unbelievable. A person can develop a negative attitude towards what they're going through, and that negative attitude is worse than the problem itself. It magnifies the problem. It makes your load 100 times heavier. You could carry that load if you carry it the right way. If you're positive, if you look at it and put it into perspective. But what happens if you magnify that load and you blow it out of proportion and you zero in on that load and you don't see any other good thing in your life and all you see is that problem? The way you're carrying that load is going to break you. So my message to you today is take a step back. Everyone has the load. I have a load. You have the load, no matter who you are. If you're on earth and you're alive, you have a load that you're carrying. Doesn't matter what your financial situation is. There's different loads for every person. And I want you to take a step back and ask yourself, not how heavy is my load? I want you to ask yourself, how are you carrying that load? Is the way you're carrying the load helping you or hurting you? Is it making the load heavier or lighter? Because the truth is, it's really not about the load. It's about how you carry it. So next time you want to complain about the load, look in the mirror and ask yourself if you should be complaining about the way you're carrying the load. And when you change the way you carry the load, when you put things into perspective and see that they're not as bad as you think they are, when you put things into a positive frame of mind and you see there might be a silver lining, maybe something good will come out of this, maybe it's not as bad as I thought, you'll see that that load will shed tens or even hundreds of pounds. And that's my message to you today. Stop focusing on the load and take a step back and focus on the way in which you carry that load. And when you start to carry that load differently, you'll start to see that the load isn't really what you thought it was. It's not as bad as you thought it was, and it's not as heavy as you thought it was, and you can carry it. I want to thank you for listening to this video, taking your time out. For all those who've subscribed, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. It really is a tremendous feeling to have people resonate with my content and for it to provide value to other people. You know, it's an amazing thing. People could be across the world and I could be speaking into a camera, but you never know who needs to hear this message. So if this message did speak to you, hit the subscribe button and we will meet the next time. Thank you and have a great day.